what are they actually learning if when they have rough patches while communicating, they run immediately to Google Translate instead of monitoring this behavior and self-correcting as they learn? Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel and to this series where I am dissecting TLC's Love and Translation, a multicultural dating show where no one speaks the same language, yet everyone hopes to fall in love. The last 3 videos in this series are deep dives on each one of the men and their behaviors exhibited up to episode 4. Today we're closing out episode 4, so if you have not seen those, I highly recommend that you give them a look for full context in what I'm going to be sharing today. Let's get into these 2 very messy episodes, y'all. Trip is interested in Lady. Khalil is interested in Heidi with some waning interest in Jennifer. Dylan is interested in both Tulay and Sarah, though he chose Sarah for his second solo date. All of the couples have come back from their outings from earlier in the episode, and it looks like Trip and Lady have continued theirs into the evening. Back at the house, Trip does what I think is probably the most intelligent thing he will do all season. He brings out some dry erase boards. He does not seem smart enough to have gotten this idea on his own. Regardless, I do think that the dry erase boards is a great idea. Then he sits with Lady and they draw out their hobbies. The activity ends with a full-on makeout session, so I guess you could say it was successful. It was nasty. And that chemistry carries over into the rest of the evening's activities.
The ladies want to set up a lingerie party tonight.
I'd like to take a moment and say that this feels extremely weird. How exactly did this work? This had to be a production choice. There's no way these women from different countries speaking different languages telepathically communicated with each other that, hey, we're gonna get down to our skivvies and have a party, so you're gonna have to bring some lingerie with you. Call me a prude, call me whatever. I am just of the mindset that these kinds of things should be done behind closed doors with your partner. No one needs to see you parading around like this on national television. I'm not mad at it, but given the dynamics in the house, this is definitely not a good idea. I can't show a lot of the footage because of how naked everybody is, but tensions start to heat up when Lady and Trip decide that they're going to grind on each other in front of the entire house. Of course Giselle sees them, and with the mix of alcohol and everything going on in the house, she is livid. Trip hasn't so much as looked Giselle's way since he came back from his date with Lady. She feels ignored, she feels disrespected, she decides that she is going to confront him. It's explosive.
Qual é o problema?
Giselle.
Blá, blá, blá. Você fala demais. Não fala mais comigo.
And that's the end of episode 4. The only reason that any of that information really matters is because that drama bleeds into episode 5. So, after Giselle's blow up at Trip, she goes to find Lady and explain to her that she's not upset with Lady. What she is disappointed in Trip's behavior. Lady is a girl's girl. She decides after hearing this that she is also going to confront Trip. Trip makes it so easy to pick him apart. All of that supposed Marine training that prepared him for situations that are high stakes and stressful, this is all a joke. I'm not saying the Marines are a joke. I'm saying that bro is an absolute joke. If he were even slightly emotionally intelligent, he would be looking for ways to de-escalate the conflict, keeping an even tone of voice, using calm, deliberate body language. But this is Trip we're talking about, so we get even more caveman speak and a badly drawn picture of a heart.
It looks like some kind of fruit.
I greatly dislike how willing Trip is to throw Giselle under the bus.
Giselle feeling a lot of emotion.
There's a major aversion to any kind of responsibility on his end. He keeps pushing this narrative of Giselle's emotions being high, Giselle being upset, Giselle being the issue. Deflection and lack of accountability are major red flags for any kind of relationship, so this tracks for Trip. Before Lady leaves Trip's room that evening, they make plans for the next day.
We agreed to work out at 8 a.m. this morning.
Trip goes down to the pool and starts his workout routine. He's waiting and waiting and waiting for Lady to show up. Miss Thing, in the meantime, is upstairs in her room getting ready at 8 o'clock and getting ready at 8:10 and getting ready at 8:15. She never makes it downstairs on time for the 30-minute sweat session that Trip had planned.
This is just straight up not showing up. This feels very disrespectful.
It kind of kills me to say it, but I actually understand why Trip feels this way. I know, I feel like I need to wash my mouth out with soap. I am an extremely time-oriented person. I live and die by the clock. Early is on time is late, but I also understand that my perception of time is created by the value that the United States of America places around this idea. Time is, for the average American, of utmost importance. To the foreign visitor, Americans seem to be more concerned with getting things accomplished on time, according to a predetermined schedule, than they are with deep interpersonal relations. Schedules for the American are meant to be planned and then followed in the smallest detail. Americans' language is filled with references to time, giving a clear indication of how it is valued. Time is something to be on, to be kept, filled, saved, used, spent, wasted, lost, gained, planned, given, made the most of, even killed. The US is part of what's called a monochronic culture. We focus our energies on one thing at a time. Latin America has a polychronic culture. A polychronic perception of time is where time is seen as fluid and something not to worry about. Structure is less important and deadlines are seen as more flexible, and people tend to work on multiple tasks at once. While monochronic culture associates lateness with laziness and disrespect, those negative connotations don't exist for polychronic people. In an intercultural relationship, it's really important that you don't devalue or put down your partner's way of living. Instead, you should be asking questions to figure out where this disconnect is coming from. What are you valuing that I probably don't value as much, and how can we equal these things out so that we both feel respected and valued? But does Trip get curious? Does Trip go up to the room to look for Laylee and bring her downstairs?
I'll give her the respect that she gave me.
This grown man decides to give her the silent treatment and walks his stick bug looking behind past her and out the door onto the patio. I cannot tell you how validated I feel in my dislike for this man since day one, y'all. I'm so done. This is not the behavior of somebody who is ready for a relationship, let alone an intercultural one. It's strange to me that he immediately jumps to, Lady is being disrespectful and rude. Have you not been getting to know her? Do you not have a feel for her character at this point? Does this seem out of pocket for her? Are you asking questions? Are you curious about whether or not she's hungover from the night before? She could have overslept, been sick, maybe he could have given her the benefit of the doubt, but instead of doing any of it, this is what he chooses as the most reasonable and logical path. That is not healthy behavior. Shortly after this, we get to see a clip of Imani, Giselle, and some of the other women talking about how they don't appreciate Trip's behavior from the night before. Imani shares that Giselle spent the night crying, so she now decides that she's going to confront Trip.
Tu ne respectes personne, et je te le dis face à face.
I don't feel like I did anything to warrant this fury.
All Trip would have to do is say sorry. Sorry for the misunderstanding, apologize for his behavior, apologize for the perception of his behavior, and he does none of it. The tension is through the roof when Sangeeta arrives at the villa and gives the singles their next activity.
Scientists have shown that 30% of all communication is done through the tone of your voice when you are speaking. And this is especially true when you're trying to build attraction.
I'm just about fed up with these fake experiments, y'all. The 2-minute gaze challenge was legit. The false arousal strategy behind the first date was at least interesting to debunk. Pheromones were fake news, and now we have this?
You have 30 minutes to write a song, 90 seconds to sing it to the guys.
There is literature on what tones of voice are most attractive to straight men and women, but if this experiment is really about the tone of voice, why are they going to be singing? Singing changes your tone of voice, so in my opinion, this is nothing more than an obvious setup for a cringe fest. I'm not going to blame Sangeeta for botching the actual research that they're referencing here. The producers are alluding to something called the 738-55 rule. You've most likely been told that your words, your tone of voice, and your body language all carry certain percentages of meaning or messaging when you are communicating with somebody. What if you learned that statements like that came from the widely and wildly misconstrued work of one psychology professor that did 2 studies, each with only 30 women as the only participants, and wrote a book about his results? You probably wouldn't take it so seriously, right? 738-55 was developed by Albert Mehrabian while he was trying to determine how well people could detect a person's emotions through their tone of voice. That is very different from what Sangeeta is saying. If you're interested in finding out more about Mehrabian's work and how it became the monster that it is today, I've linked a really interesting article below. For the intents and purposes of this video, all you need to know is that the experiment they're running now has absolutely nothing to do with research and actual science. So back to the actual activity of singing. Jocelyn is not interested in participating in this. She actually gets pretty upset at the idea and walks away from the group. Sangeeta follows her and they have a one-on-one conversation in which she's able to understand a bit more.
J'ai fait beaucoup d'efforts pour me rapprocher des garçons. Ils nous manquent de respect.
I don't want to participate in this game. It's based on communication, but I have no communication with any of them.
I'm not a fan of pulling the race card, and in this case, I don't think I'm doing that because it is very obvious that the black women on this show get the very least amount of airtime. This is episode 5, and we have not had one clip of Asya sitting down and saying anything in front of the camera. Jocelyn has sat down in front of the camera maybe twice for all of 20 seconds, if that. There are exactly 0 scenes of any of the men interacting directly with any of the black women. Not to mention, Jocelyn is the heaviest woman on the show. While they may be pretty, we know that historically conventional beauty standards do not align with what people assume about black women. If I were Jocelyn and I were interested in any of these men, I would be upset too. Why make a mockery of myself in front of people that won't even look my way or give me the time of day on a regular basis? It feels like I'm making a clown out of myself for someone's entertainment. Sangeeta somehow manages to convince Jocelyn that going through with writing the song is still a good idea because it will give her a voice to express her concerns. Everybody gets to writing. Remember, the women have translators so they can understand each other's songs.
Desce do trono, porque você não é rei.
In the meantime, the guys are lost.
A lot of the women seem angry. This is not a good thing.
She seems so relaxed, like as if nothing is wrong, but I clearly tried to show her that I am hurt.
Trip, he's so annoying. I can't with his song. He's trying to turn this into some sort of like slam poetry night. I cannot.
So much hate. I can't relate. I just want to communicate. Lady, late.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
After the activity, Trip asks Lady to step outside with him so that they can have a private chat. That goes nowhere pretty quickly.
8, lady, ocho, lady.
Lady explains that she was ready at about 8:15. She went to Trip's room, she knocked on the door and didn't get a response.
Ding, 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 English, promise, Espanol, promise, ding, ding, any bells? Trip, promesa, together, ocho, correcto?
This is actually gross. If he gets this way over minute misunderstandings, I cannot imagine what it must be to be in a relationship with this man 24/7. Trip stomps away from Lady, saying that they're not going to be able to make this work.
In America, I have no problem reading signals. That's never been an issue.
Then why are you here, Trip? Why are you here? If you're such a mastermind at being able to communicate with people from the United States of America, take your behind back to California. Find somebody there and make it work because you know you're so great and your track record shows that you're absolutely a catch-up till now.
I want to go home.
And she's not the only one. Sangeeta gets the tea on what's happening in the house. She goes back to the villa and stages an emergency meeting with Khalil, Trip, and Dylan.
There's some tension that you guys have created with the girls. 3 ladies may not want to continue this journey. I am going to give you the translation devices.
Yes, please.
Based on how those conversations go, those 3 women might decide to change their mind and stay in the experiment, but we don't get to find that out until next episode. I still haven't figured out exactly why, but this part in particular really bothers me. I don't know if it's because it feels like it cheapens the experience somehow. Maybe it's because it feels like it's rewarding poor behavior. In the case of Trip especially, what are they actually learning if when they have rough patches while communicating, they run immediately to Google Translate and think that it must be the words they're saying, instead of monitoring this behavior and self-correcting as they learn? My concern is that the men will use this opportunity as a crutch, latching on to that one moment in time that they had conversations in English with these women and base their behavior off of that moving forward. Maybe my feelings will sort themselves out by the time we get to next week's analysis. I'd love to know your thoughts on this final plot twist, as well as any other portions of these episodes that you found interesting. Remember that with God, all things are possible, and I will see you next Wednesday. Take care.